Mr. Myberg, I want to be very specific. A lot's been talked about, and I understand that you have a zero tolerance for porn watching. But in light of the revelation that the ranking member just provided to you, that you have the ability, not only the ability, the requirement to address these kinds of behaviors. I'd like to know from you today if we have a EPA employee who is watching porn, and let's pick an hour a week on average. Are you willing to fire them? Yes or no?
I am not willing to make a judgment on an individual case without...
If they admit that they've been watching it and you find it on their hard drive, are you willing to fire them? Yes or no?
I will answer for myself.
You're the head of the agency, well, one or two down. You can answer for the agency. Yes or no, will you fire them?
If we have an employee who's watching, and I'll go with your scenario, if we have an employee who's watching an hour a day of porn, and that is documented, and by the whatever forensics we need to do to document that, that seems to me it would be an appropriate case for proceeding with termination.
That's not a yes or no, Mr. Myberg. That is a question with a question. My question is very specific. If they are watching porn for an hour, it's a low threshold. I mean, most of the others, I wouldn't even tolerate that.
No.
Would you fire them?
I understand that, and like
yes or no?
I would fire them.
Will you instruct your departments to fire them?
I will take that information back and no.
Yes or no?
It's not a yes or no.
There is a yes or no to the end of this question, and we're going to get there eventually. So if the answer is no, just tell the American people no, because that's what I'm sensing is the answer is no.
I don't think that's fair, but I also don't think it's fair to me to prejudge every case that would come before a supervisor or before the agency. And I'm sorry that that's not a simple yes or no answer, but it's just not.
So the answer is no.
The answer is not no, and the answer is not in every case.
Mr. Myberg, let me just tell you, I know they brought you back and you had a stellar career at Region 4 and other places. But I can tell you, you're doing the EPA a disservice today. If you cannot, before the American people, admit that watching porn is offensive enough to fire them, moms and dads all across America don't understand that, and quite frankly, neither do I.
Congressman, I completely agree that watching porn on EPA computers and EPA work is not acceptable.
But if you don't do anything about it, Mr. Myberg, it will never change. And what I'm hearing from you today is that you're not going to do anything about it, and I am saddened to hear that. Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Elkins, I want to thank you for your work. I want to also let you know that the ranking member and I were talking about this. I know the Chairman Chaffetz, is not going to let this go by the wayside. If you will continue to follow up and do your work, please thank all of those who work with you. The other is if we do not get clarity by the end of May, as the ranking member has suggested, on working with you, we are asking you to report back to this committee of any potential problems. Mr. Elkins, are you willing to do that?
Yes, sir, and thank you for your support.
Well, you have it. I would also suggest at this particular point that there would be a 72-hour, Mr. Myberg, if at 72 hours, if you have an employee issue, that you would notify Mr. Elkins within 72 hours, your supervisors or anyone else, on anything that may be of a concern, and let the Inspector General determine whether it needs to be something that needs to be followed up on, not just those that you think are important. Wouldn't you agree that all, as your previous testimony would indicate, need to go to the Inspector General?
Again, my testimony is that my own experience in going to the Inspector General...
I don't care about your own experience. You'll be long gone eventually. Should the agency have a commitment to refer all, A-L-L, all, to the Inspector General? Yes or no?
Not, again, not to parse hairs, but when you say all, are you referring to all issues of employee misconduct?
Yes,
specifically?
all issues of employee misconduct or potential employee misconduct. All, A-L-L.
The reason I am hesitating, and again, it's not to parse words, is that we.
Well, you are parsing words,
I know.
and so I would suggest that you get somebody else to come and testify the next time around. Mr. Clay.